Hey everyone, so today we are going to go over how to bill rental transactions to QuickBooks Online if you bill monthly in advance or in the rears. The process is relatively the same for each scenario. The only thing that is different would be the time that you would be running your billing. So if you bill in advance, you're going to be billing at the beginning of the month. If you bill in the rears, you'll be running your billing at the end of the month. So the first thing that I want to do is click this Items Rented button along the top toolbar of the service program. And in a previous video, we discussed how to enter a rental transaction. So if you need some clarification or some more information on that, just refer to the previous video. But as you can see, we have a rental transaction set up right here for this customer, John Doe. This is invoice number 9. So it looks like there are 2 portable toilets. We're charging them $100 a piece for those portable toilets. And then we also have this delivery/setup fee for $50. We have that marked as run once, which means we only want it to be included on the first invoice. Looks like our billing start date is May 1st, so we are going to be billing for the month of May. So all we need to do is click Rental Info from the top toolbar, and on this sub-menu, we are going to head to Billing and then Run Billing. That will open up this screen right here. This first field wants us to enter our billing end date. So if we bill monthly, regardless of if it's in the rears or in advance, and we need to bill for the month of May, we want to go ahead and select the last day of May as our billing end date, May 31st. The second field here where it says Select Billing Group, I do not have any billing group set up at this point because I bill all of my customers on the same cycle, which would be at the end of the month. So we can ignore this second field. Now we can move down to the third field that says Days in Billing Cycle. Now this is really only important if you prorate, because whatever value you input in this Days in Billing Cycle field will dictate the calculation for the rate, which of course depends on the number of days that they've rented the unit from you. Now, quick tip, if you want to get the most out of prorating, so the most amount of revenue, you can leave the number of days in the billing cycle to 28. Because what the system will do is it will take that total charge, so if it's $100, and it will then divide that by 28 to determine the charge for each day in the billing cycle. If you want this to be a true prorate that's 100% accurate to the number of days that are in the month that you're billing for, then this is something that you'll have to constantly adjust. So there's 31 days in May. You could absolutely change the days in the billing cycle to 31. That way it would take that $100 total charge and divide it by 31 for each day in the month of May to then determine what to charge the customer for the rental if they received the asset in the middle of the month. For this example, we are not prorating, so it's not going to have an impact on our billing here. I don't need to mess around with this days in billing cycle too much. The next option here says Show Location on Description. So let's talk about this for a moment. And as you can see, because I changed the days in the billing cycle, the system then asked me, would you like to make this the default for future use? I'm going to select no. If you change any of these settings on this screen, the system will open that prompt, and if you select yes, it will remember the change that you've made, so you don't have to make those changes each time you run billing each month. So that's a very nice feature. So this show location on description field, which we have set to no at this point, we'll talk about this for a moment. If we flip back to our rental transaction, you'll notice next to the line item, there is a column with a field that says location. Right now I don't have anything input. Now this is typically used to input a more specific location, such as right side of the building, on the back side of the lot. If you need to display that information on the invoice, you absolutely can flip this option, show location on description, from no to yes. But I will say it's relatively uncommon. The next option here says show serial number and description. So if we flip back to our rental transaction, I do not have serial numbers tied to these assets. So we're going to leave that as no, but if you want that serial number to show up on the invoice, then you will want to select yes for show serial number in description. Next option here says combine customer invoices. So if we had multiple transactions for the same customer, would those transactions be combined onto one invoice, or would the system generate two separate invoices? So that's what that option determines. Right now, for today's example, I just have one transaction that we're going to run billing for, so it doesn't really matter what I select here. This all really depends on how you guys function internally. There's no right or wrong way to use that setting. It just depends on whether or not you want to condense the amount of paper that you're sending your customers. The last option here is to add the billing increment to description. Now, what I can tell you is when we generate billing, the system is going to take the date range for the month that they are being billed for and input that onto the description of the line item. So I'm running billing for the month of May, so we should see May 1st through May 31st. So it should be very apparent to the customer that receives the invoice what they're being billed for. If you want to take it a step further, you can absolutely flip this add billing increment to description from no to yes. Not only would it say May 1st through May 31st on the invoice for each line item, it would also say monthly if that was the billing increment tied to that line item. In my opinion, that's pretty redundant. And if you're a PT company or a roll-off or dumpster company, you probably don't need that additional information. So we'll go ahead and leave that setting to no. So we're in a good spot here. We can now go ahead and click this Generate Pre-Billing button. And it's going to say, would you like to create the rental billing transactions? We're going to select yes. Then it will tell us that our pre-billing is successful. Now, there's two other boxes below this Generate Pre-Billing field, and these will most likely not apply to you. If they do apply to you, definitely reach out to us and we can get you some more information. So if you have a fuel surcharge, or if you charge per service, meaning the service is not included in the monthly charge of the rental transaction, our system can calculate how many services took place in that month, regardless whether or not you bill in advance or the arrears. We can still determine that number. But again, we're not going to spend too much time on these two boxes, because if you're watching this video, again, they probably will not apply to you. And if they do, just reach out to us and we'll get you some more information on that. So after we've generated our pre-billing, now all we need to do is view our pre-billing. So we can hit this View Pre-Billing blue button right there. And as you can see, John Doe is populated here with our 2 toilets and our delivery fee. And you can also see that date range, that May 1st through May 31st on the description of each line item, which is nice. We also have the quantity, the rate, and of course the total charge, which would be the rate multiplied by the quantity. We have our prior billing date, so that's the billing start date of the cycle, and then our billing end date. It's very important that you review the information on this screen before you post anything over to QuickBooks. The reason for that is you cannot batch edit nor batch delete invoices once they're sent to QuickBooks. So if you send a batch of 100 invoices over to QuickBooks and something is incorrect, maybe you use the wrong ending date, or you just realize that you're now charging a little bit more for your rented assets, and you now need to adjust the rental transactions for that new rate. You want to make sure that you make those adjustments in the service program before you post the batch of invoices over to QuickBooks. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time editing or deleting the invoices on the QuickBooks side. If you need to make any adjustments to the information that you're seeing on this screen, it cannot be done on this screen. You would have to open the rental transaction back up, make the adjustments in the transaction, and then regenerate your billing. The nice thing about that is, on the billing screen at the very bottom, there's a field that says date to delete. And it should have our billing run. Well, we're running billing for May 31st. So if for whatever reason we needed to delete this batch because we need to make corrections to our transactions, all you have to do is select that date and then click this delete button. It will empty out the bad information in the batch, and then from there you can absolutely fix the rental transactions and then generate your billing again. For now, this looks pretty good, so we're ready to post this over to QuickBooks Online. The first thing that we need to do is enter a billing date. This is the date that's going to appear on the invoice in QuickBooks. So we're going to go ahead and select May 31st. If you bill in the arrears, that's typically the last day of the month. If you bill in advance, it would be the first day of the month, typically. And then we need to click this Post to QuickBooks button. When we do that, the system will say, are you sure you want to post to QuickBooks? We're going to select yes. So we'll give the system a minute here. And then it will open up your QuickBooks Online Sync menu. And this should be familiar to you if you've watched previous videos on how to sync with QuickBooks, or how to sync with QuickBooks Online. You know that this is where you would do so. Right along the top of this screen, there is a button, there's an option here that says Rentals. So we're going to go ahead and click that. Once we click that, we should see the same exact information from our billing batch in the desktop software right here in our QuickBooks Online Sync menu. To get this posted over to QuickBooks Online, it is a two-step process. So we now need to input our posting date here and then click the Post to QuickBooks button. Once you do that, the batch will empty out. That signifies that those invoices went over to QuickBooks Online. Now there is one last step, and this step is very important. It has to be done if you want to get the most out of this system. You have to head back to the Service Program desktop software, and you have to click the Post to QuickBooks button one last time. You'll click Yes again, and what that will do is empty out the transactions in this batch screen, which is what we want. What it also does is updates the billing start date for the transactions that were billed. So if I now open up this transaction, our billing start date should be June 1st. It's no longer May 1st. They've just been billed for the month of May. So the system automatically does that, which is what we want. You'll also notice that on this delivery item, I had it marked as run once. So after we did our billing and we billed for May, you'll notice that this field is now populated with May 31st. So the system knows that this has already been billed on May 31st, and it does not need to bill the delivery charge again. All right, and that's it. That's how you would run your billing each month if you bill monthly in advance or in arrears.